It is my great pleasure, there we go, to be able to introduce the filmmakers and the cast. Let's start with Julia Fox. And then Wes Mulholland, Eddie Mayday, Kalina Liang, Chris Sullivan, Lucy Liu. We have writer David Koepp and director Steven Soderbergh.
Not a real murder.
Oh my God, they're so alive.
Hello. So this is obviously a fictional ghost story, but Steven, I've heard that the roots of this project came from a real spooky incident involving a house that you've lived in. Is that true?
It is true. A house that I was living in Los Angeles. I had a house sitter while we were out of town, and she saw a ghost. She was in the parlor, like TV room, and saw something out of the corner of her eye down the hallway, and it was a woman crossing from the bathroom to what was the master bedroom. And she instinctually shouted out my wife's name because she thought it was my wife, and then realized, no, I'm house sitting because they're not here, and called my wife and said this really weird thing happened. So we kind of followed this up. Turns out somebody had died in that room, a woman, an older woman, and we dug a little further and found out that the police report said it was a suicide, but our neighbor told my wife it was not a suicide. This daughter killed her mom. There were blood trails down the hallway into the bedroom, onto the bed. You know what I mean? So we find this. We've been living here for a while, and my first thought was, well, if that's true, that sounds awful, but what? So we're in her home. What would it be like? My wife gave her a name. It's not her real name, but my wife gave her a name, Mimi. So what if Mimi feels like this is her home and people come in, how does she feel? Like that's where this came from. And so I wrote down a few things, where I typed out a couple of pages and sent them to David and said, just the idea of we're in a house, it's a shot, then it goes to black, another shot, something happens, you're in somebody's point of view, and it's whoever is in this house, and that was it, and he took it.
So the idea of this being from the ghost point of view was there in the beginning.
Oh no, that was
the whole idea. Steven said, I want to do a ghost story only from the ghost point of view. And I love things that are restricted. I love an idea that is constrained, whether it's one location, or it's got to be 24 hours, or it's, two people in a lifeboat, whatever the bottle is, I really feel like it frees you up creatively, because you're forced to make find other solutions than what you would traditionally do. So we had a couple rules, which was it had to be one house. We wanted it to be a family drama, and I remember Steven said, "Oh, and this family, by the way, is really fucked up." And I said, "That's interesting. Tell me more." And he said, "I don't know. They're really fucked up." And I said, "Oh, I see, really fucked up." So, but that was great. And now I have all the sand I need in the box. There's complex family dynamics. We're stuck here, and every scene has to be written so that it can be performed and shot in a oneer. which sounds not that hard, but then you realize if we're ever going to have a close-up, if there's ever something important that we want to see, if there's ever a moment you need to be close to an actor's face, you have to motivate it not just with the events, but why would the presence, which is the fifth member of this family, why would the presence go in close? So it was fun to have that kind of challenge.
For both of you, and Steven, you were the cinematographer on this, in addition to being the editor and the director. So you were operating the camera. How did you decide how you wanted the camera to kind of have a personality? Like it goes and hides in the closet for a bit. It kind of really does give you a sense of subjectivity early on.
Well, that was all very scripted. And I think, look, a movie should be giving you clues in the first 5, 10, 15 at the most. Clues about, like, how am I supposed to watch this? Like, what's going on? What do these images mean? So I felt like this afforded us an opportunity to set the clues up really early, like in the first shot. Like, by the end of the first shot, you understand there's something in this house. Where did everybody go? And I don't feel secure. Like, I feel kind of like afraid, or, you know what I mean? I retreat into that's the first shot. And the score is part of that. The score is part of bringing you into that sort of point of view, so that you're like, oh, it feels. And so, once you're there, you've just got to make sure the trajectory is kind of working. But it seemed like, when we talked about it, the simplest thing, you know what I mean? Oh, it's all, but it presented challenges, but it seemed like really simple in its conception.
Lucy, I believe you were the first person cast, and I'm curious what you thought when the script was handed to you. You have this project that was shot in secret and over 11 days, is that right? What did you think?
Well, when I sat with Steven, we just talked about each other and got to know each other, and then he told me about the script, and then he sent it to me, and I thought, okay, great. I read the script immediately, and then I thought, okay, he wants me to play the woman who is sort of the soothsayer / the one who can connect to the other side. I didn't really know which role it was. I thought that was the one, because oftentimes when I get a script, it's the odd man out, not the wife, not the mother. And so I was so confused, and I reread the script, and I Carmen Cuba, who had cast it, sent me the script also, and I said, oh, just which role should I look at? And then she said Rebecca, and I thought, oh, I have to reread the script again. And I think the one thing that I took away from the script was it wasn't absolutely clear what happened at the end. And I love that, because David did such an excellent job of not tying everything up in a bow. Like, what happened to Rebecca's situation at work? What exactly occurred that wasn't finished? And I think it allows the audience, because, and I think for Steven as well in this case, we know that the audience is smart. Let them be intelligent. Let's not give them everything and then repeat it and repeat it. Or let them, understand that they're going to follow along as opposed to be the leading it. And I think that's what makes it kind of the tension is created, and it keeps that emotional, heightened feeling of what happens, because the movie is actually quite short. It falls off very quickly, and it's unexpected. So I mean, it's an exciting project to be a part of, because I am just an enormous fan of both Steven's and of David. So I was really thrilled to be a part of it.
There's a lot of dysfunction in this family, and each of the characters has their own drama. Your character happens to bring both this like professional thing that we kind of understand is maybe bringing legal repercussions down on her, and inside the family, is playing favorites pretty openly amongst her children. What was it like to kind of play this really wonderfully, like, imperfect matriarch?
I mean, the thing about Rebecca is that she's more than complicated. She also does things without compunction and without thought for others, except for herself and for her, you know, her futurizing for her son, who she obviously, as you said, you know, is quite obsessed and with and really only focuses on. And I think what is kind of amazing about her character is that she's so, in some ways, rigid in the way that she believes that she can manifest whatever she has in her mind to happen. And when she sort of shirks her daughter, who's obviously in pain and needs to help, you know, the parents help to process what she's going through, she ends up having that full circle, because when a person is dealing with loss or grieving, it's not a linear process. It's something that is quite, I guess, it's syncopated in how you can process grief. And so when it happens to her, it creates this cavern that I think it could have only happened in the way that it did. You know, people won't really try to heal trauma unless they really feel like they've hit the end. And it was something that was created for her, which is going to help benefit her. But you know, it's funny because when you do have that feeling, like, you know, Kalina's character, Chloe, it is not able to feel and sense it anymore, but it gets passed on to Rebecca at the end because she's so open and available. And that's the beauty, I think, of the entity and the energies that are out there that we sometimes forget about because we are so solidly living our lives and checking off lists and getting on the subway and, you know, so busy. And I think oftentimes, like, children and animals have more of a sense of those things because they're a little bit more available.
Chris, you have worked with Steven before, as has Julia. You were on The Nick, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about, like, what it was like shooting this, because I know Steven is known for working quickly, but 11 days sounds like it's moving very quickly.
Yeah, the learning curve was certainly steep, because technically speaking, he was being shot unlike anything that any of us have ever worked on before, or anything that we will ever work on again. And so it definitely took. We had, I think we were slated for like 13 or 14 days, and we started moving.
That sounds expensive.
Yeah. And I was like, 14? Come on, Steven, pick it up. And after the first day, when we really got an understanding of how this was going to work, these little pieces of theater, these little pieces of choreography, these little looks at the different relationships between husband and wife, or father and daughter, or any of the relationships, it didn't see, nothing was rushed. We didn't, but we also, everything just clicked. It just clicked in. On the first day, Steven said to us, I hope this works. It might not, but there's no plan B, so fingers crossed. Which is a very exciting place to be. You know, Steven is notorious for challenging himself as a filmmaker and putting some kind of obstacle in his own way, and to be a part of that was very exciting.
I know that this was also shot mostly chronologically. I was wondering what, for you as an actor, that was like. I mean, you have a whole arc with Lucy's character, playing that out in order. Like, how did that affect how you approached it?
I mean, it's a great luxury that we are not often afforded as actors, to play things out in order. And since it was such a fast process and we had such a short amount of time to get to know each other, it was very helpful for those beats to play out in order so that we could take them one to the next. It made the whole process very, much easier.
Kalina, I think this is your second film, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. You get, I'd say the majority of the ghost scenes. The ghost is very focused on your character. What was it like kind of playing those scenes where you were supposed to be by yourself and kind of sensing that something is maybe there with you? Especially, I feel like you are asked to break what feels like one of the basic rules of told to actors, and you get to look at the camera.
Yeah, I mean, that was really fun when I got to look into the camera. But no, it very much felt like a dance between myself and Steven, you know, with the camera and the movements. It felt like we had to choreograph where we're gonna look and be. And when I first read the script, I was like, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to approach this. But as we started rehearsing and being on set, it felt very natural. And I kept saying this today too, but somehow having a lens in my face with Steven like behind it, it felt like there was a presence because I couldn't see anyone's face, and I could just see this lens moving. So it was very, very cool to experiment with.
I'm curious what your impressions are and what kind of drew you to the character of Chloe. She's someone who is the quiet one of the two siblings, but also we kind of slowly understand the depths of like her pain and grieving.
Yeah, when I first read the script, I felt a lot of love for her and I hurt for her. You know, I feel like as a girl growing up in this world of society, you kind of, at that 16, 17 age, you don't know the answers. And I feel like, yeah, Chloe's going through a lot. And I think why she is so drawn to the presence is because no one else is giving her that attention. No one else is giving her that comfort. And she finds that comfort within something supernatural. And I think that's something special too, something sweet about their relationship. But yeah, she's definitely going through a lot and grieving.
Eddie, this was, I believe, your first role in.
Yes.
Which is an amazing, debut. Well, tell us a bit about kind of how you prepared for this role.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of looking at, especially when you see the film for the first time and you don't know the ending, and me reading the script for the first time, you kind of see Tyler as the asshole in the family in a lot of ways. And I think for me, it was kind of trying to dig into the backstory of why the family moved to the house, which David alludes to throughout the script. I also had to do just some imaginary work on, because I mean, you got to figure out what wounds someone so bad that they start expressing such hatred towards someone in their family. So yeah.
I mean, you.
That was good.
You know, your character turns out to be this kind of tragic, heroic figure, but as you said, during a lot of the film, he's not always that nice, especially to Chloe. How did you and Kalina kind of work out what your sibling relationship was like?
It was very easy.
Yeah, very natural.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny because we actually got along very well outside of set.
That's the first time you've ever said that.
So I think a lot of it came naturally, I think, through the writing, but also, I mean, you kind of got to find the parts about the character that you can empathize with, which was hard because there's a lot of things to like about Kalina, personally. But it was, yeah, you got to do the imaginary work, I guess. Yeah.
Many things not to like, but
West, you're playing kind of a soft boy serial killer here. One of the things I loved is that your character comes in as kind of the popular kid and then reveals this seemingly sensitive side of himself, and then reveals this other much more disturbing side of himself. How much early on when you're approaching this character did you want to show any hints of like anything sinister versus like leaving that as a surprise?
I think this character should really with warning. But I think, in order to have such an impact, we need a message, sort of saying, this is a warning, it can be anyone that can embody this character, unfortunately. So it was very, real to me, and I wanted to do that justice and part for bring that to life, and so I think making very hurt places, which I'm sure Ryan was, he's just this person that turned off his emotions. Honestly, that emotions get better of him, unfortunately. music really helped me tap into that. And so like sort of having those loud, very like a lot of rock and grunge. And so having that sort of like in my head, while mine is very sensitive, quiet, you know, reserved character, which makes it so appealing, you know, to Chloe. I think that one thing about us is Brian's mother has so much pressure to his life, while you know, Chloe's mother has essentially nothing. She's so isolated. So I think in a lot of ways, opposites attract, and he's able to use that hurt in his own life to then make it good. It's super tragic and very unfortunate, but thankfully God leads us.
I did want to ask about, you know, and the climax is really disturbing, obviously because of what's happening, but also because the presence and the camera is like freaking out. What was it like to film that scene?
Oh my gosh, that was crazy.
You know, we start out, me and Eddie hanging out downstairs, listening to music, and then I go and I pour the drinks, and I, you know, have to mix everything, and then I gotta go upstairs and then deliver this like 3-page, thanks David, you know, and a half monologue. But no, seriously, thank you, because it it got me,
That's
you know,
sincere, yeah.
it got me so into it. And you know, both of the other two characters are knocked out. I don't know how that happened, and it was this. I believe we did it in 3 or 4 takes, and I remember, like, yes, this was a moment that had to like put a lot of pressure on myself, but I honestly, the support from Steven, from everybody on set, these two people, like I felt such a support behind me, and I just really, you know, as horrible as it was, I just really had to embody the character in that moment. And he is so meticulous and so planned. He's, you know, done this before with the other girls, as it's been alluded to in the script. And so I think nailing down the preparation of just knowing exactly what I'm gonna do with my hands, and every beat was like, I feel like timed out in my head. Kalina describes it so beautifully as like a dance. But at the same time, it leaves, because it's all one continuous take, it leaves room for, you know, little moments of magic to happen in the performance. It doesn't have to be the same every single time. And so, you know, sort of playing with that at the end was really a treat as an actor. But I remember going back to my hotel room and I had to call my mom, because I'm like, Mom, I'm shivering right now. Like I'm unwell, you know, going to such a deep, horrible place. But the best part was jumping out the window with Eddie right here.
Is that a spoiler?
That was us.
Right?
Our
Okay.
stunt crew is incredible. You know, they
But who needs them?
Well, it's true. We actually weren't gonna. They were gonna the stunt workers. We're gonna have stunt doubles do the stunt, and then we were like, we want to do it, and so we went to Steven and we're like, can we do the stunt? And he's like, do you want to do it? And we're like, yeah. We did it.
One take.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We only had
no,
one
but
window.
They did. It was rehearsed. They did. There was no good version of a story in which I pressure somebody to do that, and so I was being extremely, you know, they were like, we want to do it, and I was like, well, let's do it, and it was one take.
It was their idea.
At no point did we feel pressured. Like to have
no,
Say
camera.
it. Say it. At no point did I feel
At
pressure.
no
Pressured
point
to
did I
do-
feel
Thank you.
pressured to jump
out of a window.
Yeah, I still have the glass in my room. I'm gonna frame it. My little one piece of glass. Maybe I'll have, you know, we can sign it. Sign each other's little glass shard.
Well, you heard it here. Julia, you bring us into this movie with a character who looms large and terrifying in every New Yorker's heart, a professional real estate person. Was Cece based on any real or television real estate personalities that had crossed your paths before?
Well, one of my best friends is a real estate agent, so I was, and she actually sold me my house, so I was very much like channeling her in that moment. But it is not a profession that interests me.
That said, there is an ad for your character with your face on it.
That
which I
everyone
love.
thought was real, by the way. Someone was like, damn, I guess the acting thing isn't going that well for her.
That's amazing. Where is that? If everyone here wants to go pay homage
Down
to it.
on Mott Street. Yeah, I think it's like Mott and Spring or something. I went there, but I just don't remember.
Well, I mean, if you seek it out, please take a photo. I believe we are unfortunately out of time, but before we go, I would like to say, please tell everyone the movie opens on January 24th. So if you enjoyed it, please spread the word. And I'd also like to ask that you stay in your seats right now because we have a hard out, and so just to make sure everyone gets out on time. And can I please get another round of applause for team presence?
Guys,